They're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any impact.
Issued about 260 executive orders. He said, I have a phone and I have a pen and I'm going to bypass Congress. Barack Obama deported more people than any other prior president. In 2016, Barack Obama bombed 7 different countries, 26,000 bombs.
Picture a political mirage so finely crafted it convinced millions that charm was the same as skill. Now watch as Joe Rogan and Victor Davis Hanson rip through it with razor-sharp insight and unrelenting wit. This isn't a polite critique, it's a controlled demolition. The myth, the media's golden child, the walking TED Talk in a designer suit, all stripped bare. Brace yourself as the glossy facade shatters, revealing the ego, the blunders, and the hollow empire behind.
And it's disgusting. It's a disgusting lie. Let's play it.
Then there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides. I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
See, that's crazy. I have never seen that last part of it.
Because the news has said that lie over and over and over and over.
This Democratic Party is a Jacobin party and they will not change their ideology or their agenda. It's run by the Obamas and the people in the Obama administration who feel that they missed the boat and they were too compromised to be reelected or whatever. And Joe Biden is expendable. They don't care about Joe Biden. He's an empty vessel. And he's a very useful veneer to push this unpopular but revolutionary agenda forward and get it institutional.
He peddled hope and cashed it in for hashtags. Barack Obama entered politics like a celebrity cameo, treating the Constitution as little more than a stage prop. When the red carpet rolled away and the grand speeches disintegrated into policy dust, the truth was plain. He wasn't leading a nation, he was managing a brand. Joe Rogan and Victor Davis Hanson didn't need flames to torch that legacy. A spotlight and a bloated dossier of broken promises dressed in designer rhetoric did the job.
Talk about the ongoing melodrama of what Barack Obama knew or did not know in his involvement with Russian collusion. There are 3 blind mice involved in this tale. John Brennan, the former CIA director, James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence, and James Comey, the former FBI director. And they all have new manifestations.
He was the first president to mistake governing for curating every moment staged to look good, sound good, and feel good. Style over substance, packaging over policy. He wasn't repairing the machine. He was rebranding it with a Spotify playlist and an Instagram filter. Joe Rogan nailed the description. A motivational speaker who drifted through 8 years with access to drones and
because things are actually happening. Very different than most of the time when people get elected.
And I will shut down the Federal Department of Education and we will move everything back to the state.
Most of the time when people get elected, they claim all these things when they're running for president, then they get into office and not much changes.
Individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
And in fact, a lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws.
Protecting whistleblowers, which they didn't do at all. It was one of the worst administrations for whistleblowers.
Wielding the precision of a historian done with polite fictions, sliced through the Obama legacy like a sword through fog. His foreign policy wasn't diplomacy, it was stand-up apologetics. Delivered in foreign capitals while enemies watched with popcorn, the grand tour of self-deprecating statesmanship didn't win allies. It earned awkward applause and geopolitical whiplash. The Middle East resembled a chemistry experiment gone wrong, and he treated it like a seminar on restraint and self-reflection.
It's exactly what Biden did in 2020. He was in seclusion, and then he counted on this fusion media to fill in the blanks. He ran, remember, he ran as a uniter. He said, let's stop the madness, the chaos. I'm good old Joe from Scranton. And to a lesser extent, the same extent Barack Obama did. He had hope and change. He has joy and vibes, but it was predicated on the same thing. The only thing I think she's going to be different is that, if you remember, Barack Obama at least had in his arsenal the unpopular Iraq.
Then came the red lines drawn, erased, shifted, and forgotten. Obama's warnings had all the force of a parent counting to 3 but always stopping at 2. Rogue states took notes while he took the podium. Joe Rogan couldn't resist the irony. A man capable of delivering a masterclass on leadership, yet needing a GPS to locate an actual decision. This wasn't boldness. It
Backstabbing that's going on.
That's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies.
Like when she got into office, you realize like you're not really in control of everything, because there's another person who's in control of each individual department, and they'll stop whatever you're trying to do every step of the way. They get in the way of everything. What are you going to do?
Healthcare was the crown jewel of his domestic agenda, the Affordable Care Act. A masterpiece so brilliant that entire industries needed flowcharts just to follow it. Instead of clarity, he gave America a bureaucratic Rubik's Cube with hidden penalties and secret handshakes. Joe Rogan skewered the bait-and-switch economics. Premiums skyrocketed. Coverage shrank, and affordable became code for financial ambush. His economic bragging rights, like a guy who wrecks your car and then wants applause for calling a tow truck. 8 years of stagnant wages, jobs bleeding overseas, and a national debt swelling faster than his fan base. He blamed his predecessor, then spent 2 terms spray painting slogans over the damage, and race relations. No one monetized symbolism harder. He surfed into office on a wave of post-racial hope and left the country more fractured than a Reddit thread on pineapple pizza.
Policies and the attacks on whistleblowers and drone strikes and all the other shit that happened during that administration, and the coup in Russia, and like there's a lot that's, from a foreign policy perspective, that's very similar to what George Bush was doing. But what they were doing was highlighting social justice issues that came about during his administration, largely obscured the fact that the foreign policies were very similar to what
he delivered lectures. Instead of healing, he offered commentary. Hanson cut through the illusion with one clean line: symbolism without action is just performance. And Obama was the star attraction at the theater of national illusion. Then came the surveillance state. The man who campaigned on transparency left behind a digital panopticon fit for a sci-fi thriller, spying on journalists, expanding the NSA's reach, and turning metadata into a political appetizer. His administration watched Americans like reality show contestants. Joe Rogan laughed at the absurdity. The guy who preached privacy ended up monitoring everything but bathroom breaks. And the media. The relationship was so fawning it bordered on embarrassing. Every scandal softened, every blunder rebranded. When the IRS targeted political groups, it was a glitch. When the DOJ spied on reporters, it was context. Hanson nailed it. Obama didn't keep the press in check. He turned them into his entourage.
Worse than Watergate, because the President of the United States knew that he didn't have the intelligence to suggest that Donald Trump was a Russian asset. He thought that narrative would have worked in the election. It didn't. Donald Trump, I think, surprised to himself, was elected. So here you have a lame duck president trying to destroy the incoming president. He essentially did. There was no reason for Clapper or Brennan, or in the case of the FBI, to tell Barack Obama there is signs of Russian collusion. He gave the game away. He was praising Barack Obama and said, you know, we would have never known about Russian collusion unless Barack Obama in that meeting, and he's referring to the December 9th meeting.
Every problem under his watch came with a ready-made scapegoat. If something failed, it was Congress. If something broke, it was the system. If something exploded, it was history's fault. Obama never ran out of excuses, only solutions. He could romanticize failure like it was fine art, waxing poetic, while the wheels came off the policy bus. Joe Rogan spotted the magician's trick: dazzle with brilliance, then make accountability disappear. ACT to foreign disasters. Libya, where leading from behind turned into running from responsibility. The result? A power vacuum, chaos, and another region swallowed by hellfire. Hanson dissected it with surgical precision. Obama's so-called humanitarian intervention created instability, dressed up as virtue. He dropped bombs, then dropped out, leaving allies scrambling and enemies cheering. The Nobel Peace Prize, awarded before the grades were in. And then there were the weapons deals, the pallets of cash shipped overseas, and the doctrine of strategic patience, a plan built on wishful thinking and flattering headlines. On the cultural front, Obama treated celebrity worship like an official policy objective. He slow-jammed the news, filmed comedy sketches, and curated playlists while veterans languished without care, and cities drowned in bureaucracy.
Gave that speech when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this. And then they go, it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
Today, I authorize the Armed Forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort to protect.
Distraction by charisma. Obama didn't roll up his sleeves. He rolled out late-night invitations, practiced leadership by selfie, and pushed legislation through social buzz. Even his hallmark speeches aged like memes. The cadence, the pauses, the scripted charm, so predictable that parody couldn't keep pace. Joe Rogan nailed it. The man could talk for an hour, sound extraordinary, and say absolutely nothing. It wasn't a gift. It was an evasion tactic wrapped in eloquence. A masterclass in appearing profound while dodging decisions. His greatest trick wasn't leading. It was convincing millions that performance was leadership. Lecturing, meddling, fundraising. As if he never left office, just changed costumes. Now he lingers in politics like a ghost with a book deal, popping up to remind everyone he still believes he's the smartest guy in any room. Rogan peeled back the ego from the persona. The man who ran the most passive-aggressive administration now markets himself as democracy's.
Let's start with John Brennan. The problem that Brennan has is that he went to a meeting and he presented a false picture of CIA assessments. The so-called CIA heads of various divisions found no Russian collusion. They said to John Brennan, there's nothing there that we can see that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. He rejected that, cherry-picked 4 or 5 other analysts, and then presented a false picture to Barack Obama. Or did he?
And the memoirs, endless memoirs, each chapter another hymn to how remarkable, misunderstood, and historic he was. Hanson mocked the audacity, rewriting history before the ink dried, reframing failures as footnotes, and criticism as ignorance. Obama didn't reflect, he revised. Now, every platform he touches becomes another sermon from the mountaintop of missed potential. Even his own party grew weary. The man who once electrified the base now lectures them with condescension. Younger Democrats roll their eyes. Older ones whisper regrets. Still, he clings to the belief that he's the benchmark, the blueprint, the brand. Joe Rogan and Hanson agreed. Obama's greatest legacy wasn't policy, it was a cult of personality, aging into irrelevance in a designer suit. Then there's Chicago, his hometown narrative turned contradiction. Crime soared, schools crumbled, communities pleaded for solutions. Obama gave speeches. Symbolism over service. Awareness over action.
We really got to see it until Trump ran.
The biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign.
The whole system is so corrupted.
They spied on my campaign, they got caught. And then they went much further than that, and they got caught.
And it's so obvious, like we're at a stage, we have enough information to see.
They spied on my campaign.
There's no real evidence of that.
Of course there is.
No.
It's all over the place.
Verified.
Leslie, they spied on my campaign.
Well, we can't verify
It's been
that.
totally verified.
No.
How much greed, money just corrupts the system.
And he's in the midst of a scandal.
He's not.
And
He's
of course
not.
he is,
No.
Leslie.
Come on.
Of course he is. And you will see that.
Hanson called it poetic injustice. The man hailed as a savior couldn't even help the city that made him he'd visit, pose for cameras, and vanish. And the roast doesn't stop there. Not when Obama keeps inserting himself into national debates with the subtlety of a foghorn. Rogan and Hanson didn't just go after the man. They dismantled the mythology. They dragged the golden pedestal into daylight and revealed it was hollow, all flawless diction, curated imagery, and historic talking points covering empty space. But Obama won't go away. The punchlines keep arriving, disguised as tweets, speeches, and guest appearances. Hanson and Rogan know the saga never truly ends. The illusion cracks, but he keeps painting over it, meaning the roast doesn't end, it reloads. The one-time darling of media adoration now feels like the punchline to a joke told too many times. The more he talks, the more it's clear how little substance ever lived beneath that polished exterior. It's like opening a beautifully wrapped